February 15th, 2021 meeting of Gaston County Board of Education. I am Jeff Ramsey, member at large and chairman of the board. At this time, I would like to ask our other members to introduce themselves. Mr. Dedman?
Lee Dedman, Gastonia Township.
Justin Davis, South Point Township.
Robbie Lovelace, Cherryville Township.
Dot Cherry, at-large member.
Kevin Collier, Riverbend Township.
Dot Guthrie, Gastonia Township.
Brett Moore, Crowders Mountain Township.
And,
Steve Hall, Dallas Township.
okay. Thank you. On behalf of the board, we'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting this afternoon. Before we begin our meeting, I'd like to remember our friend Terry Ushery. We would like to take a moment to honor him tonight, and he passed away this weekend. Not only was Mr. Ushery a member of the board from 2016 to 2020, he was a longtime educator over 40 years in our community who dedicated his entire life to our schools, our teachers, our students. We have truly lost a loyal friend of education. All of us are deeply saddened by his passing, and we ask everyone to keep Mr. Ushery, family and friends, in your thoughts and prayers through these difficult times of mourning. Please join me in remembering our colleague and dear friend, Mr. Terry Ushery, in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, Mr. Booker, can you lead us in our invocation and pledge of allegiance?
One of the touching things that was said to me this weekend when folks were talking about Mr. Ushery was that he always called Tryon the perfect place to learn. And now we know that Mr. Ushery is truly in the perfect place. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today with many burdens, but much joy for all that you have done. We ask that you guide us in this board meeting, providing wisdom and support, help for meaningful discussion, and allow us to nurture the bonds of the community we choose to serve. May grace abound, Lord God, as we discuss things that affect students, staff, faculty, and our community of Gaston County. Continue to remind us all that we do here today and all that we accomplish is for the betterment of the world you have created. We thank you for all that you are and all that you do. Amen. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next order of business is adopt the agenda. You have a proposed agenda in front of you. Do I hear a motion to adopt it? Ms. Cherry makes the motion, second by Mr. Dedman. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Or did the rest of them get? I think I checked it here, Dot, on my, all right, thank you. It's unanimous. Our next order of business is to hear the good news happening in our schools. Dr. Booker, you share?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First, I wanted to start our good news off with recognizing two outstanding athletes from Bessemer City High School. Both had record-setting performances on the basketball court. During last Friday night's game, Randall Pettis broke the single-game scoring record by scoring 60 points. This surpassed the record of 59 points that dated all the way back to 1969. This followed where the previous week, Janiyah Adams had broke the single-game scoring record for girls basketball with 50 points. That record of 47 points went back to 1983. We celebrate these student athletes for their accomplishments on the basketball court, but also celebrate what they do in the classroom. The good news for Bessemer City is both of these students are sophomores, so hopefully they've got 2 more years of standout performance for Bessemer City. I want to recognize another record setter for us. At the Highland School of Technology, Lauren Tolbert recently won the 1A Individual Cross Country State Championship. Her time of 19 minutes and 15 seconds set a new 1A state record. This makes her a 3-time state champion in cross country and track field. And as a junior, we know that she will continue to celebrate her accomplishments at Highland. Also want to recognize one of our employees, Yeva Hall Williamson, who is a counselor at Stuart W. Kramer High School. She was selected for the College Board Counselor Recognition Program. This acknowledges and honors outstanding school counselors for their hard work and dedication toward helping students, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. It recognizes counselors' efforts also to prepare students for college and career success. I don't think we can ever stop and thank our counselors enough for the work that they do. They have so many responsibilities and such a large caseload. It's great to have Ms. Hall Williamson recognized and represent that whole group for the great work that they do. Also, from Cherryville High School, many of you have met the athletic director and longtime basketball coach, Scott Harrell. He has been selected for the Athletic Director of Excellence Award that is presented by the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association. He is one of 12 people to be recognized. And this is given to nationally certified athletic administrators for outstanding service and leadership. We just appreciate all that Mr. Harrell does. If you've ever been to a homecoming game at Cherryville High School, the ceremony, and he is a large part of that, it's just great all the contributions he makes at Cherryville High School. Next, wanted to just stop and think about what you all know. We have a number of financial secretaries throughout the district, and they have a lot of professional development, and it's recognized by the North Carolina Association of School Business Officials by having a Treasurer's Academy. And we recently had a number of folks, Wendy Hawkins of Catawba Heights, Jessica Higgins of Pleasant Ridge, Annetta Hudspeth of Pinewood, Rhonda Paragori of Bessemer City Primary, Carla Steele of John Chavis Middle, and Tina Walker of Hunter Huss complete the entire program. And this is just an ongoing. We have a number of our financial secretaries that have completed this, and we just wanted to recognize and also acknowledge all the work that our financial secretaries do. And last, it is one of the things to recognize that we talk about athletics, that gets a lot of things, but our art program is phenomenal in this district. And it's a pleasure to announce that this evening we have students from Cramerton Middle School, Ashbrook High School, Stuart W. Kramer High School, East Gaston High School, and Forest View High School who received awards in the Mid-Carolina Regional Scholastic Art and Writing Awards Program. Our district received a total of 13 awards, which included 2 gold keys, 4 silver keys, and 7 honorable mentions. Their pictures of award-winning Art Week are posted on our Facebook page, so we invite everyone to take a look to see all the talent that is exhibited in this, but I tell you the talent goes well beyond this one event. If you've ever been to any of the other art exhibits that our schools have, I encourage you to do that. Our art teachers have overcome a lot since COVID and continue to deliver great instructional awards for our students, and we appreciate all that they do. And so as we conclude our good news tonight, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I wanted to stop and recognize one of your own. And some of you may have seen this on the front page of the Gazette. Our board member, Ms. Dot Guthrie, received the prestigious Coretta Scott King Virginia Hamilton Award for Lifetime Achievement that is presented by the American Library Association. The award is named for author and civil rights leader Coretta Scott King and children's author Virginia Hamilton. Ms. Hamilton wrote more than 35 books in her career and received the prestigious Newbery Medal in 1975. On even years, the award is presented to African American authors and illustrators for what they have done to produce and publish quality literature for children. In the odd years, the award is given to practitioners who use African American literature to engage youth in reading and related activities. Further, all recipients must have a proven record of making a significant and lasting literary contribution. Well, 2021 is an odd year, and Ms. Guthrie is the practitioner recipient for 2021. This is a national recognition, and if you've ever heard Ms. Guthrie's story, what a great story and what a great deserving. Don't ever go read in the classroom, Ms. Guthrie. You just get shown up. And she hauls in a whole load of books, and I just look silly with my one book. So, but it is great. So, Ms. Guthrie, we wanted to congratulate you as a body and acknowledge all that you do, and are so glad that your organization has recognized, because I know you've been an active participant in that whole process for years.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And so for the second item related to this, we have for a number of years, the board has done various resolutions, but we wanted to introduce one for the significance of African American literature and the Coretta Scott King Book Awards. And I'd like to call on Mr. Hagins to read a resolution that we propose for the board to adopt. Mr. Hagins?
Thank you, Superintendent Booker. This is a resolution presented by the Gaston County Board of Education recognizing the significance of African American literature and the Coretta Scott King Book Awards. Whereas reading is the foundation for success, and our students are encouraged to imagine, discover, learn, and grow through the exploration of literature. And whereas since 1976, every American president has designated February as Black History Month in the United States, and the annual observance is intended to highlight the accomplishments and contributions of African Americans, including authors, illustrators, poets, essayists, novelists, and others who have had a significant influence on African American literature. And whereas the Coretta Scott King Book Awards are presented each year by the American Library Association to recognize excellent books for children and young adults that were written and illustrated by African Americans and reflect the African American experience. And whereas teachers across Gaston County, especially during Black History Month, are encouraged to bring attention to the books that have won the Coretta Scott King Award, as these literary works are ideal for classroom teaching and learning and student engagement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Education is proud to support enriching literature-based activities that promote reading, raise awareness of history, and celebrate diversity, and also commends the African American Museum of History and Culture at the Luray Mill for its efforts to bring attention to the significance of African American culture and literature. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made part of the minutes of the Board of Education adopted this the 15th day of February 2021. And Dr. Booker, that is the resolution that is before the board for consideration.
Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution presented by Mr. Hagins.
Make a motion, second by Ms. Cherry.
I wholeheartedly second that, Mr. Ramsey.
Wholeheartedly second it. All in favor? Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Guthrie, for all you give back to our community and all the kids in Gaston County schools and your museum. Thank you again.
Mr. Chair, that completes our good news for tonight, sir.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing all that good news. The next item on our agenda allows the opportunity for public expression. This is the time where the board will hear comments from citizens about the matters of public concerns related to our school system. We do have several individuals who signed up to be heard tonight. Our board sets aside the first 30 minutes of regular monthly meetings for citizens to address the board. Even though our meeting this afternoon being held virtually, our board wanted to find out, allow individuals to hear in person. Rather than just sending an email, So we tried to limit the number of staff presented instead of open the boardroom to permit in-person public expression from as many as possible in 30 minutes. Before we begin, let me outline our procedures. Citizens wishing to make comments and who have completed a request to speak form will be recognized by the chair and then requested to step up to the microphone for their comments. Citizens will state their name, address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The members of the board do not comment on public expressions during public expressions. Public expressions does not allow for comments on confidential or personnel matters. The chair will rule on all points of order during public expressions. So, that's what we got, 3, right? Okay. The first one up is Haley Brazil. Is she here tonight? Okay. The second one is Brian Maloney. Let's come to the mic.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Brian Maloney of 1249 Hoffman Road, Gastonia, North Carolina. First, I realize there is a feedback form for the draft calendars online. I feel like my voice would not be heard and my feedback would be lost, among others. I'm the father of 2 children, a 5th grader and a 7th grader. This is our 6th year in the Gaston County school system. Every year, we plan our lives around the school calendar. I'm seeing an alarming trend with the draft calendar for the next 2 years. First, I realized that this school year was an exception to our normal way of doing things. With the COVID-19 disruption for the last 3 months of last school year, I recognized the necessity to schedule as many learning days as was possible. I recognized the necessity for scheduling extra remote learning as the amount of live instruction for our children was much less than it is for a typical year. I have high hopes that next year, and most certainly the year after, can return to some version of normal for our school and for our children. The healthcare system is currently administering vaccinations with school personnel eligible to receive vaccines 9 days from today. School-age children aged 16 and up will be able to get vaccines in Group 5, hopefully before the school year starts. They're currently conducting clinical trials of the vaccines for children aged 12 and up with the hopes of having it approved prior to the next school year. And I hope that the school board is working with the local and the state departments to make adjustments necessary for a safe return to schools. All this say our children should be able to have a sufficient amount of in-person instruction starting next year. I could not help but notice that on our draft calendars for the next 2 years, every time there's an optional teacher workday, it is marked as a remote learning day for the children. In the past, optional teacher workdays were days off for the children. These are much needed breaks throughout the year, not only for the children, but for the families. I did some comparisons of the calendars, both comparing previous year's calendars with Gaston County's school system, but to also other district calendars. Here's some of my findings. First, the state of North Carolina requires either 185 or 1,025 hours of instruction. And using elementary schools as a basis with taking out 30 minutes for lunch and 30 minutes for recess, giving 6 hours of instruction, dividing 1,025 hours by 6 produced a minimum of 171 days necessary to meet the state requirements. Compared the future calendars to Gaston County's 2018-2019 school calendar for a fair comparison with the district. For the 2018-19 school year, there were 174 and 1/2 days of instruction scheduled, with 27 weekdays off from school. The ratio of weekdays off from school to weekdays in school was 15.5%. By comparison, the 21-22 calendar school year had 182 days in school. If you
Can you wrap it up?
Okay, I can wrap this up here.
Okay.
The basic of it is that there were 182 days of school with only 24 days off. So it's a reduction of days off by 5 days and reduced it to 13%. And let me kind of get to the key point so I can keep it short.
Okay.
If we were to basically give those days back, give those remote learning days back and have a normal school calendar, that would bring it back to 178 days on and 28 days off. and for the 21-22 calendar, and 173 days on, 29 days off. This basically brings it back to what it was pre-COVID. And if you also, on my next page was basically comparing it to some of the other school districts in the state who also maintained around 174 days of school, give or take, of the counties around here, and had anywhere between 29 to 31 days off compared to our 22 to 24 days off for the school children. The Gaston County school calendar for the next couple of years had the lowest number of days off compared to any of the counties surrounding Gaston County. It also, including one of the remote learning days, was the day before Thanksgiving. This is a travel day that families account for to get to their families. And it is now a remote learning day. And the kids often won't have access to a computer during that day and have to spend their time off catching up on the remote learning. There's some other examples, but I thank you for your time, and I also have some summaries if you guys would be interested in taking a look at
You
that.
want to take them, Sonia, we'll pass them?
Yeah, I printed enough. Here's some evaluations as well as some other school content. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Next up is Sarah Gillespie.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Sarah Gillespie and I live in Belmont. I'm the parent of a high school student. I'm also an educator who understands two things. Education is ever evolving and that progress should always be student-centered. I first brought my concern to light in September when I reached out to teachers, then school administrators, district leaders, and eventually to you, the board. In classrooms across the district, not just in Belmont, you will find teachers who give quiz grades for assigned syllabi, parent emails, and decorating notebooks. Teachers who give test grades for copying notes in a notebook and keeping a notebook organized. Teachers who give 0s and 50s for late work without any consideration for content mastery. If grades show students what we value, these practices show them we value compliance, not content knowledge or content mastery. And if you consider the implications of these practices, you would recognize that students who comply and meet every deadline, but who may not be mastering content, are getting pushed along, unprepared for the content, course after course. And then students who don't comply, but who have learned and are mastering content, are failing courses and being kept from learning opportunities. I know the arguments for our current grading practices. High expectations and high standards, preparing students for the real world, motivating to do better next time, pacing guides to follow, not enough time to pause or go back. But there's no evidence, no data, no research that supports any of these arguments. Over 20 years ago, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction determined that it is an educator's ethical responsibility to assign grades based on demonstrated competencies. And it was over 10 years ago that Gaston County Schools established grading guidelines that mirror those ethics, stating that academic grades shall be a content-based measure. Yet inequitable and unethical grading practices continue every day, regardless of ethics, regardless of guidelines, regardless of a pandemic. If you let it continue, it will continue. I recently read that we can learn a new curriculum or a new instructional strategy, but if our grading doesn't change, nothing for our students will really change, and the achievement and opportunity gaps will remain the same. Year after year, we address the achievement gap in school improvement plans and strategic plans and professional development. We look at graduation rates and failure rates and proficiency scores, and year after year, we plan to change what we teach and how we teach it. But we never consider the one thing that never changes, grading practices that haven't changed in over a century. And I know it's one more thing. But what if this isn't just one more thing? What if this is the thing? September. That's when I first shared. There was time then to change the outcomes for students, and there's time now. Some say change doesn't happen overnight, but some changes need to. Because until it does, you will be doing a tremendous disservice to all students across the district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and your continued concern for Gaston County schools. Although the board does not typically respond during the period for public comments, we do want to hear from our public and direct staff to work on those issues that need to be addressed. Thank you for your comments. The next on the item agenda is approval of the correction of minutes. These items are on actions for January the 15th and January the 15th board retreat. Second, Mr. Dedman, any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Next on the item is allowed school board recognition. I'll turn that over to Todd Higgins.
Chairman Renzi, Vice Chairman Cherry, members of the board, and Superintendent Booker, thank you for giving us an opportunity this evening to bring attention to School Board Recognition Month. January is designated as National School Board Recognition Month, and it is a time for communities across the country to pay tribute to the citizens who serve on local boards of education and thank them for their vision, guidance, and leadership. Because our Board of Education retreat is held in January, we like to observe National School Board recognition during our regular meeting in February, so the recognition can be seen on Channel 21 during our live broadcast. For School Board Recognition Month, we traditionally have a school class to adopt a board member. Then we ask student representatives from the classes to join us for our meeting to present a framed class picture to their adopted board member. Unfortunately, we are not able to have students with us this evening to recognize our board members. However, each board member is being honored by one of our elementary schools, and your adopted school has provided you with a thank you card and a flower. This evening, Chairman Ramsey is being recognized by Catawba Heights Elementary. Vice Chairman Cherry is being recognized by H.H. Bean Elementary. Mr. Collier is being recognized by Pinewood Elementary. Mr. Davis is being recognized by Belmont Central Elementary. Mr. Dedman is being recognized by Gardner Park Elementary. Mrs. Guthrie is being recognized by Robinson Elementary. Mr. Hall is being recognized by Carr Elementary. Mrs. Lovelace is being recognized by Tryon Elementary. Mr. Moore is being recognized by Chapel Grove Elementary, and Superintendent Booker is being recognized by Bessemer City Central Elementary. We would like to express our appreciation to these 10 elementary schools for taking time to make creative and thoughtful cards for our board members and for giving the beautiful red flowers, which are most appropriate as we just celebrated Valentine's Day on Sunday. So we hope that you will take time to enjoy the card that is for you at your place there in the boardroom. And we do invite you to take one of the flowers located there on the table with you this evening. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we want to thank you for giving us a moment to acknowledge school board recognition in Gaston County. And hopefully next year at this time, we will be able to enjoy our traditional format for National School Board Recognition Month.
Thank you, and thank you for that special recognition. The next item on the agenda is report from the Operation Committee. The Operation Committee is made up of Lee Dedman, who is the chair of that committee, Dot Cherry, Kevin Collier, and Brent Moore. Mr. Dedman, who's going to?
Ms. Cherry is going to report on our committee.
All right, thank you.
Okay. The Operations Committee met on Monday, February 1st, 2020 at 4 p.m. at the gym of the new Belmont Middle School, and it's beautiful, so can't wait until that gets open. Our agenda and discussion included the following. Rebecca Huffstetler, principal at Stanley Middle School, requested that the cafetorium at Stanley Middle School be named the Kelly Payne Robb Cultural Arts Hall in honor of the late Kelly Robb. Kelly Payne Robb was a lifelong resident of Stanley and a product of the Stanley schools. She was a graduate of East Gaston High School, and her entire professional career was as a music educator in the Gaston County schools. She taught 19 years at Stanley Middle as the band director. The Operations Committee is recommending that Stanley Middle School, that that the Stanley Middle School cafetorium be named after Ms. Robb. This item is on the consent agenda for approval. Executive Director of Human Resources, Joey Clinton, updated us on the renewal of the Safe Schools contract. Safe Schools is an online tool used for professional development and training at all levels, including the school board. Mr. Clinton also recommended endorsement of possible use of the reduction in force, or RIF policy, which can be used for strategic planning if needed, policy 7820. This item is on the consent agenda as well for approval. Aaron Slutchley, Chief Technology Officer, presented the plan to for the purchase of additional 5,000 Chromebooks for student use in grades 2, 6, and 9, based on the enrollment projections for the 21-22 school year. This item is also on the consent agenda. Executive Director of Auxiliary Services, Dr. Morgan Houchard, updated us on the following information relating to auxiliary services departments. The Transportation Department is currently working on refining the two-tier route model that was implemented in the fall of 2020, which allows for all our buses to support a first run for elementary schools and then a second run for middle and high school students. We will continue to start elementary schools at 7:30 a.m. and middle and high schools at 8:30 a.m. Dismissal times for elementary and secondary schools will be an hour apart, as they are this year. With this change, we hope to minimize any wait time at schools for students, absorb driver shortages better, offer more hours for most drivers, as well as an additional employee benefit to them. School nutrition continues to serve meals each day at schools, and with our grab-and-go service since March of last year, they have served over 3.1 million meals, and that is million. So kudos to our school nutrition people, phenomenal job. And finally, our safety and security team continues to work with principals in schools on drills, trainings, and safety and security protocols. And as most of you know, the last week of January, all schools conducted panic alarm testing, or I hope you know, parents, because I'm sure your kids came home and told you. And with that, that's our operations report.
Yeah.
What did I forget? I only have one page. Oh. Okay, sorry, Lee, I didn't see on the back.
Finally, Dr. Houchard shared with us facilities and maintenance department has completed over 10,000 work orders since July 2020. They also continue to support all school or central offices with COVID guidance, support, and PPE. An update on capital bond was also presented. Gary Hoskin, our Associate Superintendent and Chief Financial Officer, reviewed the contract with Andrew Smith and White. We're currently in the third year of a 3-year contract for the annual independent audit, and we'd like to extend that contract. The Operation Committee is recommending the approval of this contract, which is on the consent agenda. And Gary Hoskins also presented the committee with a list of construction and repair change orders, which are recommended for the board. These also appear in our consent agenda. Project Manager Paul Knott and Morgan Houchard updated us on the status of New Belmont Middle and the progress regarding the Stanley Middle School roof. We concluded our meeting with a walkthrough with Belmont Middle. It is a beautiful, beautiful facility. Very proud. It's very, very similar in looks to Stanley. It's just a little bit larger because of the number of students that it can do, but it's excellent school, and I think we'll be very pleased with it. That concludes. Our next meeting will be on March 1st, but I'm going to tell my committee that I will meet with Mr. Hoskins to find out whether we have a need for that meeting, and I'll let you know about next week.
Yeah, thank you, Lee, and all the Operation Committee. You can tell the Operation Department is really working hard, and we look forward to having a grand opening in the near future at Belmont Middle School. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. The members of that committee are Mr. Justin Davis, Steve Hall, Robbie Lovelace, and Miss Dot Guthrie is the chair of that committee. Miss Guthrie, who's going to share with us tonight on the report?
Mr. Chair, Ms. Lovelace is going to present our report, but before she does, it would be very remiss of me if I failed to thank Robinson Elementary School for their special recognition of me as a board member during the month of February. I want the principal, the teachers, the leadership, and all to know that during the pandemic, you made the sacrifice and you showed your appreciation to me as a board member for what we are trying to do in order to keep you safe. We greatly appreciate your card, your flower, as well as your well wishes. And we want you to know that we will continue, boys and girls, to be the best board member that we can possibly be. And with that, Ms. Lovelace is going to present our report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Gaston County Schools Board of Education Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting was held on February 1st, 2021. Members present were Dot Guthrie, Robbie Lovelace, Steve Hall, Justin Davis, Jeff Ramsey, and Dot Cherry. The meeting was called to order at 12:00 p.m. Minutes were approved unanimously with no corrections for the meeting on December 7th, 2020. Academic Services presented information about summer school and summer professional development. Summer school opportunities will be offered to rising K through 12 students. The summer sessions will be individualized to accommodate students with enrichment, remediation, and credit recovery. Summer professional development will provide opportunities to blend with summer school, include intense training in specific content areas, and offer immediate feedback on demonstrated skills. New offerings have been added to the course options for high school. A condensed version of the curriculum guide will be mailed to all rising 8th through 12th grade students. Updates have been implemented for career and college-ready graduates. The students are identified during their junior year of high school. This state mandate provides opportunities for college remediation for students prior to high school graduation. The College and Career Ready Graduates Program introduces the students to college developmental curriculums in math, reading, and English. The Department of Elementary Instruction shared information on standards-based grading. This type of grading will spell out what students have mastered and pinpoint areas where the student needs to become proficient. Staff provided information on athletics and parent updates regarding school choice programs. Students who meet the criteria may participate in athletics if they are enrolled in a school choice program. The Gaston Virtual Academy staff held 5 information sessions earlier this month. Parents were given information about the program's guidelines and the application process for the 2021-2022 school year. The meeting adjourned at 1:46 p.m. The next committee meeting is scheduled for March 1st, 2021 at the central office at 12 noon. And like Ms. Guthrie, I would like to thank Ms. Herman's second grade class at Tryon Elementary for this beautiful card that I will always keep and cherish. And at the bottom it says, "Thank you for teaching Miss LaFevers." I do appreciate this very, very much.
We appreciate you doing that also, and thank you for your report. Thank you for both committees for your hard work on behalf of our students and staff and parents, so you can tell we're moving forward and working hard. Yes?
Mr. Chair, may
Yes.
I say one thing in regards to our report? I think what we heard from our presenters the last meeting certainly is going to take us in the right direction as far as looking at learning base and standards. As we think about diverse learners and we think about how important it is for every child to have a comfort level of learning, as well as the teachers identifying how that child learns best, I want to again congratulate Dr. Bucknight and her staff for looking for various ways to make certain that learning is taking place at all levels of student achievement. So we greatly appreciate your efforts and what you're doing. And I do think, based on what they're going to present tonight, that we will see just how much teachers are going to try to do in order to address grading as well as individual learning and blended learning. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a COVID-19 update, and this is the information item, and I'll turn that over to Dr. Booker.
Thank you, Chairman Ramsey. Members of the board, you all have worked diligently since the first talk of a vaccine back in the fall and talked about the importance of it. And it is my pleasure tonight to introduce Ward Adcock, who is a doctor with Caramont, and he has some exciting news to talk about the partnership between Gaston County Schools, Caramont, and the Health Department. Dr. Adcock?
Thank you very much, Dr. Booker. I just want to begin by saying thank you to the Board of Education for inviting me on behalf of Caramont Health. I just want to say thanks for this opportunity to come and speak to you for just a few moments about the COVID-19 vaccine and how we hope and plan to roll that out to our educators here in Gaston County. So this slide may be familiar information to most of you. This is taken directly from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. This is the phased approach that the Health Department has used to deliver vaccines to the state of North Carolina. Now, obviously, you can see at the top of the slide, we are currently in phases 1 and 2. So both of these groups of individuals are eligible right now to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. So healthcare workers, long-term care facilities, and staff were initially given the vaccine beginning in December. And then phase 2 began in January, delivering vaccine to older adults. The health department defines older adults as those individuals over the age of 65. The exciting news to share with this board tonight is that last week, the state announced that we will be moving into phase 3 of vaccine distribution. And we're going to do that by rolling out 2 different groups. The first group is going to be K through 12 educators and staff, along with any child care, daycare facility staff. And that's going to begin next Wednesday on February 24th. The health department will follow that up in March, on March 10th, and that will open up vaccines to frontline essential workers. Those are individuals that work in the postal service, grocery workers, factory workers, assembly line workers will be eligible to receive that vaccine beginning in March. Next slide. So the exciting news is that Caramont Health would like to partner with Gaston County Schools and make appointments for the vaccine available through our current COVID-19 vaccine clinic that we've been running since the beginning of December. So on the left-hand portion of this slide, you can see that currently our clinic is open right now to age 65 and older. We've basically vaccinated most of the healthcare workers in our community that wish to receive the vaccine right now. So our clinic is currently running here on site at Caramont Regional Medical Center. We have that in our education facility, our annex off to the side that comes off of our parking deck. And that is where we're going to continue to run our vaccine clinic. Now, it's set up right now to have the availability to schedule up to 5,000 vaccines per week. And I say we have the ability to do that, but we've really not been able to fulfill that up to this point because we've simply not received enough supply from the state to be able to vaccinate 5,000 per week. But we are prepared to do that if we are able to receive that supply from the state. Access is fairly easy for individuals when they come to the clinic. You can park in the deck. We have plenty of parking space there, easy signage that will direct everyone to the vaccination clinic right off of the parking deck. Most people are spending 20 to 30 minutes on site to receive their vaccine. And then at the time they finish and check out, their follow-up appointment for their second dose is scheduled at that particular time they're here. So we really have tried to streamline that process for our vaccine clinic up to this point. So what we would like to offer is next Wednesday on the 24th, the day that educators are eligible for the vaccine, we're going to have sort of a kickoff event, and we're going to host our clinic for extended hours. We're going to open it from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., so a 12-hour day. I know this is a remote learning day for our teachers and staff, and so we're hoping that many will be able to come and receive the vaccine if they choose to do so on that day. So we'll have sort of a kickoff day on that Wednesday, and then moving forward, we'll continue to have open appointment slots for our educators and their staff to schedule into our clinic. We run it Monday through Thursday, and typically anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day, and we vary that based upon our staffing each day of the week. The way to schedule appointments is through online. If you see at the bottom of the screen here at carolinehealth.org, you can go onto that site, and there's information right there on the homepage that you can click onto, and then either schedule your appointment if you're currently eligible based upon the questionnaire, and that is right now for the 65 and older, but once the teachers and educators are eligible, they will be directed into a scheduling site where they can schedule their appointment. Right now they can go and be put on a waiting list, and then they can be pulled and worked off of that list. We are going to open appointment slots on Monday the 22nd, so next Monday morning. That is when appointments will be available for our educators and Gaston County staff to schedule into appointments that we will have populated at carolinehealth.org. I'm happy to take any questions that the board has at this point.
Mr. Dedman?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to thank you and thank the hospital and thank everybody involved that our teachers are going to get an opportunity to get the vaccine. I've spoken to quite a few of them recently, and you know they're really tickled about this, and we are all very, very happy about it and hope that it goes well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cherry?
Thank you.
My sentiments exactly, Dr. Adcock. I can't tell you that this is, we all know that this is a game changer for our teachers and our school staff. Is there anything that you can tell them that they might need to have prior as far as information to speed up the registration process?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the questions that are asked on our website for scheduling, pretty straightforward questions. I mean, really demographic information that they're not going to need to be, prepared for. There's really not anything they need to do prior to logging into the site to schedule their appointment necessarily. It is important if they're planning to come and receive their vaccine. Their questions will be asked if they've obviously had COVID-19 within the last 30 days. They wouldn't be eligible for the vaccine until 30 days have passed. It's best to not have received any other vaccines within the last month, and that would be things like the flu vaccine and other things like that. So that's just general information for anyone scheduling the vaccine, but there's really not anything that they'll need to do in preparation. They should be able to click on there and within a matter of a minute or so, get themselves set up for an appointment based on what their schedule allows.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
That's great.
Guthrie?
Thank you.
Ms. Guthrie?
Dr. Adcock, I want to first thank you. I know that you have been busy in the community. You were at Tabernacle Baptist Church last week, so thank you for that. You're sharing information that's so critical and pertinent to the Gaston community. I want to say that I did go through Caramont on the 20th. It was earlier in February, and it was just easy to walk in, to be processed, to get the vaccine, to wait those 10 to 15 minutes, walk out with your next date for the vaccine. It was so wonderful, and I do believe that our teachers are thrilled and will be overjoyed by even having to wait just a little bit, because they know that the wait is well worth it. So we want to thank you on behalf of what you're doing in Gaston to provide our teachers with that extra layer of comfort.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Mr. Davis?
Doctor, thank you for being with us this evening. When we had Mr. Eaton on with us about a week ago, he talked a little bit about supply issues and that kind of thing. what can you tell us about any anticipated supply issues, either good or bad news? Are we anticipating we're going to have ample supply to be able to handle this, or are we going to be running a short supply and it's going to take a little longer than we hope?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality of this is supply is probably going to continue to be somewhat of an issue in the upcoming weeks and maybe even longer than that. We, like any county in the state, we're notified on Thursday before the beginning of the next week what our supply will be. And the state historically has been giving us around 1,000 doses a week. So when I say we've set up our clinic to function in the capacity to handle 5,000 vaccines within a week, we haven't been able to reach that potential yet because the state has not been giving us enough supply to do that. So we don't really know right now, week to week, what we will receive. We can just base it upon what we've been given in the past. And that has been around 1,000 doses, a little bit over that on a few weeks, 1,200 doses. But that's really going to be our rate limiting step in being able to vaccinate, this next phase of educators as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other comments, questions? Well, Dr. Adcock, we just want to, on behalf of the board, thank you for your partnerships with our staff and Dr. Booker, and then also for all your support for the health service and our career tech education. We're looking forward for the new hospital partnership with you on that. And we thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next on the agenda.
But a little bit more about this.
Okay.
One,
I didn't know you
I
had
would
any.
like to echo what you all just shared. A lot of people talk about having a regional hospital and what that means to you. You're seeing it right here. They are stepping up and making it available. And I encourage folks, you can go on the website. There's other things that you have to do as far as state forms, and you want to have a MyChart account with Caramount. All those things facilitate the process, but I think we should not lose sight. This is our hospital stepping up to serve our community, because you don't see this going on in other places. And so, Dr. Adcock, we appreciate the work that is taken. And I know Mr. Peak reached out to us last week saying, would we entertain this opportunity? And you all have been working really hard with the state to get permission for this. And so I just want everyone to know this is a great example of what it means to have our own hospital that is a freestanding enterprise in here. And they do many things, as you pointed out, Chairman Ramsey, to support our school system. And I think it makes an impact in our community. So we appreciate it, sir.
Thank you for those comments.
And I also need to, members of the board, to say that you all have supported our efforts to work with staff throughout COVID, and the health department, combined with that, we have worked really hard as our employees have faced quarantines and the different exposures that are inherent in COVID being in our community at the rate it has been. And to date, you all have supported us and allowed us to maintain paid status for our employees. And we had a lot of federal guidelines that established that, and there was some discussion about at the end of December, would it be extended? They extended it through March, and you all followed that guidance and took advantage of that. And so we are continuing to do that work. And Campbell Shatley, which is one of your consulting law firms, along with the health department, there is a state policy regarding contagious disease leave that we will continue to utilize this so that we may support our employees as we go through whatever transition the federal government may have. But it will allow us to continue to work to keep people in paid status as they're in quarantine. And so I appreciate the work our HR department has done to do this, and just wanted to thank you all for the support and allowing us to use every avenue that we can to do it. And that would be our COVID report, sir.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
Speaking about support, if teachers, and I'm not saying that this would be the case, but if for some reason they need to go within those, within that timeline to get that vaccine, would they be able to work with their principals in order to make this happen?
Yes, ma'am. I can assure you, our leadership is excited about this opportunity, and that's one reason that the hospital targeted the 24th to start, because they know that's a day
Wednesday.
of remote that'll be easy. But as the other days go on, we will work with them, and they have a great system set up over there, just as he spoke to. It's about, and you witnessed it because you did, it's about 30 minutes
Yes.
process.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. That's all good news for us. Next on the agenda is our school choice highlight, and that's an information item. Dr. Blacknight.
Good afternoon, Chairman Ramsey, Vice Chairwoman Cherry, Board of Education members, Superintendent Booker. I am happy to share with you our school choice highlights. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss, and we've talked about it quite a bit. It is choice season, and we're certainly willing and ready to help all parents with questions if they're making decisions about next school year. I would like to briefly discuss our school choice programs available seats. So if you will look at the next slide. Here I have highlighted for you our school choice programs, and I just would like to lift some of our newer programs up. Ashbrook High School, for example, they have 100 seats available at iAccelerate Academy. Our new early college, Gaston Early College of Medical Sciences, has 160 seats available to 9th and 10th grade students. Highland School of Technology, they continue to require 145 ninth graders to enter into their school. We also will have 75 out-of-district seats at East Gaston Health Sciences Academy. Hawks Nest continues to be one of our main points of interest with 60 seats available, to our kindergarten students. And Pleasant Ridge has 40 seats for our kindergarten students as well. But we have 21 choice schools this year, and we're very excited about each and every one of those schools and all the things that they bring to our families and to our students and to the teachers that make the decision to teach in those schools and get that special and unique training. So one of the things that we've talked about, and we've talked about quite a bit, is our pandemic and how school was running during our pandemic. Well, let's talk briefly about school choice during the pandemic of 2020-2021. So students maintained their choice seats because we wanted to work with families. So even if the family decided that their child needed to attend the Gaston Virtual Academy, they were allowed to hold onto their choice seat for this school year. They were able to participate virtually when possible, for example, at Highland and the early college. They were held harmless with their academy or cohort classes. Many of our choice programs, as you all have highlighted, have partnerships. And so they get internships and speakers and other things, and they've missed some of those activities when they were in our virtual academy. And we continue to follow our North Carolina Department of Public Instruction guidelines for hands-on courses. So some of the courses that they needed to take to complete their program, for example, the dental program at Highland, they had to delay those things until they returned back to Highland. So that's how we support our families during the 2020-21 school year. But now that we're moving past, we hope, the pandemic and looking forward into next school year, we have talked with our families and held a choice meeting for every family that is in Gaston Virtual Academy. They were invited, multiple choices, to hear this information. That students must attend their school. So if they're in a choice program and they waive their seat for this year to go to the Gaston Virtual Academy, they will need to return back to their school of choice to maintain their seat. Many of you know that once you get beyond, for example, the first semester of your sophomore year at Highland, then you cannot continue, you can't catch up with the other students. So it's really time for us to move those students back for next fall into their home schools. So they cannot participate virtually in the virtual academy, but I will talk about that a little more in just a moment. We're asking families to commit to their seats. We know that we've heard from lots of families that it's unknown. We understand that. It is an unknown for us as well, but we have to make decisions for planning purposes, teacher allotments, and also planning our programs. So we've asked our families to commit, and they will get information from our student assignment office specifically about returning back to their choice seat. Again, these are for students in the choice program, so that they can take their cohort classes and continue to build those relationships with their friends in their grade level as they move through their cohort, as they also get opportunities for scholarships, internships, and to hear guest speakers and other things. It's very important they return back to their choice school. So when you look at this chart, this will be the difference next year between Gaston Virtual Academy and virtual learning. While they both have virtual in the name, they're very different. So I want to take some time and walk through this chart. Students enroll through the choice application process. So last year, people enrolled in a variety of ways, as we've discussed all year, to go to Gaston Virtual Academy. At this point, the only way that you can enroll in Gaston Virtual Academy is just like every other child that applies for a choice seat in a choice program. This is for the upcoming school year. Students must meet choice program criteria and are transferred to Gaston Virtual Academy. So for example, if you were a Virtual Academy student this year and it did not fit, it was not a good fit for you, you were unsuccessful, needed some additional support, then we're going to work with those families because they need to be transitioned back to a school environment. K-5 students have synchronous class meetings in the Virtual Academy. What does synchronous class meetings mean? That means that they turn their computer on every day and they have live instruction face-to-face with the teacher at least 4 days a week. 612 students next year will complete virtual work asynchronously. That is how we used to operate Virtual Academy before COVID. That means that you will have some assistance and help from a teacher, but you will basically work independent of a teacher on your own and will be able to sign up for tutor time with the teacher, and also the teacher will check in with you throughout the week to make sure that you are on pace. And this typically in the past has been for students that are training to go to the Olympics, that are equestrians and others. So we will screen students to make sure that this is a good fit for them. You must be very organized and be able to stay on pace to take this option. Students will have daily flexibility to complete their coursework. Student progress is monitored by teachers and administrators to ensure success in the program. And virtual students, as they always have been, are ineligible for athletics. So when you look at the other side of the chart, virtual learning, students not enrolled at Gaston Virtual Academy, students stay enrolled at their home school and take virtual classes with current teachers. So let me restate, students may stay enrolled at their home school, which is new for us, and take virtual classes with their current teachers. K-5, this is not available. This is not an option. As we've talked with other districts and looked at research, we find that it's not effective for K-5 students to work in that manner where they are basically live streaming with the K-5 classroom as the teachers providing instruction to those students. So this will not be available to K-5 students. So for 612 students, this option will be available. So 612 students will meet in-person classes through daily live stream lectures. So if for whatever reason there are still existing issues with COVID and families feel uncomfortable sending their children back to school, they will remain enrolled at their home school and their child will sign on for live instruction during the day with those teachers that they've scheduled with their classes that they have selected. And also they will participate in the classroom just like regular students. Our principals and teachers are working now to make that transition to prepare for next school year. Students must meet on same daily schedule as in-person students. So that means that they may have a 6-hour day where they're working through live streaming to get all of their course content in with their teachers. Students' progress is monitored by teachers and administrators to ensure success. Virtual students, again, are still ineligible for athletics. And this is also something that we've discussed with our dual enrollment process or policy. So students need to be on campus for 2 courses, and then they can have 1 virtual option to be eligible for athletics. So our virtual students are not eligible. Choice lottery timeline. So again, our window opened on January the 19th, and it will remain open until February the 28th, 2021. Our applicant eligibility, March 1st through March 26th. This is many of our programs this year have different things that are required for eligibility. We did not have EOG, EOC testing last year, so that's a part of why we're using additional things to determine if this is going to be a good fit for you depending on the program. So we will have families that will come in and bring students in to be tested. We'll be pulling scores and other information between March 1st and March 26th before we close the lottery. Before we run the lottery, I'm sorry. The lottery date will be April the 1st. Our final applicant eligibility window will be June the 30th, 2021. That means at that point, if a family has said, we've changed our mind, we don't want our lottery seat, we will continue to invite families until June the 30th, 2021. Our goal is to stop all student movement by July the 28th so that our families and teachers and principals can staff their schools appropriately and students can plan accordingly. And those are my highlights for school choice this afternoon.
Does anybody have
Thank
any comments or questions before we move on to the Ms. Cherry?
Dr. Balknight? When did you say that? Is that me? Okay. When did you say that who is that? When did you say that the lottery ends? The date?
The window for families to apply is February the 28th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The only question I had, Dr. Bachnight, is how's the sign-up going so far? You getting pretty good turnout on the school choice? I don't think she can hear me. Yeah, you can.
Dr. Balknight? Dr. Balknight? Chairman Ramsey wants to know how the lottery is going overall.
The lottery is going well. We are continuing to work with our communications department, Mr. Higgins. In fact, he's just produced a new booklet that he sent it out to families. We've been mailing postcards out, lots of connected messages. We have received lots of questions. And so we're excited about the interest in our program as always. And again, we're excited to have 21 programs in 2021.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, next on the agenda will be Dr. Bachnight on K-12 Summer Learning Plan. This is the information item.
Yes, sir. And Dr. Jackson and staff, they're down. They will pull up the item. I would like to introduce them. Ms. Shannon Howard, our Director of Elementary Education, will be the first to share information with you. But as Ms. Guthrie has already highlighted for us, we share some of this with the instruction committee. We're very excited. We continue to grow our summer school every year. This year we'll have K-12 opportunities. We did some of this last year and you'll hear more detail from the team. They are excellent and they have worked with our teachers and our parents. We gathered feedback from last year's summer school to make things even better. We know that we have all talked about quite a bit learning loss. We know that a summer will not fix learning loss, but we certainly intend to work very hard all summer to support our students and make them feel comfortable and confident to go into their 21-22 school year. At this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Shannon Hullett, our Director of Elementary Education.
Good evening. So yes, we'll get started with our elementary offerings. Prior to students arriving, teachers are going to receive some focused professional learning. Our training staff will provide planning, coaching, and specific training for our teachers. Teachers are going to spend this time working with their colleagues. They're going to study, they're going to unpack the standards, and we're going to dive into our curriculum for math and reading. After the teacher training, select teachers will put this training and their plans into action during our math and our reading camps. Following daily instruction, teachers will meet with colleagues again, as well as district support staff. We will debrief about the lesson delivery, and we will focus in on student learning. In June, our focus with teachers and students will be on math. We will provide a week of teacher training followed by 2 weeks of a math camp experience for our students. For teachers just wanting to participate in professional learning, we will also offer a week of reading professional development following the week of math training. In July, our focus will shift for teachers and students, and it will be now focused on reading. We will provide again a week of teacher training, followed by 2 to 3 weeks of a reading camp experience for students. We are still waiting on the state for specific details about the requirements for 1st through 3rd graders. In the past, we've been required to provide 72 hours of reading instruction. If that is the case, then our reading camp will run for 3 weeks. For teachers just wanting to, again, participate in professional learning, but they couldn't make the June sessions, we will offer both math and reading professional development for those teachers in July. We know we are going to have students and families that want a full virtual learning option. So we will also offer the elementary virtual summer extension. We will follow the model we used last summer because it was successful. This option will be available to any rising 1st through 5th grade student. The site will be available to students anytime, anywhere through the months of July and August. Students will work on content at their own pace. Content will focus on our targeted standards at each grade level for reading, math, science, and social studies. The lessons will be taught using pre-recorded lessons from our very own Gaston County elementary expert teachers, so we're really excited about that component. We will also provide lessons to promote social emotional health, PE, music, and art. This opportunity is going to allow any student to get a jump start on material that they will encounter in the upcoming 2021-2022 school year. So we're excited about what elementary has to offer for both teachers and students this summer. So I will now turn it over to to Amy Parker, our director of middle school instruction, and she will share our middle school options.
Ms. Cherry had a quick question before you moved on to middle school.
Yes.
Ms. Hullett, for our in-person, do you have this, any information about the sites, and are we putting a cap on enrollments?
We will first survey our teachers to see how much participation we can get from them, and then based on those numbers, that will help us determine how many students we can offer summer camp to. We also are, again, waiting for direction from the state in terms of the required expectations based on Read to Achieve legislation as well.
Dr. Booker,
Thank
have you
you.
heard anything about
I
that?
have-
That's what I wanted to share. Shannon just brought up what I was going to do at the conclusion, was to say all of this is our academic services team trying to prepare and be as if we're empowered to operate under our guidance.
Yes.
We know that there's legislation being
Yes.
developed because they've announced that in 2 weeks they would hope to have something. Right now they're working on that other piece of legislation about reopening of schools in the current school year.
Yeah.
And so they have spoken to learning loss and things that they may do, which could impact. That's why she's saying this is all what we plan to do. And you also asked a great question, Vice Chair Cherry, in saying, will we be able to get the staff and what will it be? We hope, but we know this has been a strenuous time for all of our staff. And that's one of the feedbacks that we have given to the legislature and some of the questions they've asked us about traditional summer school and what that would look like in the time. So all pointed good questions.
Is that why you've chosen for right now to go the pre-recorded for any virtual? Just because of the possibility of a lower staff opportunity?
Yes, and last summer we had a lot of success with student participation through the virtual option. This doesn't require our teachers, so this is something that we can put together and anybody can access it at any time. So we're excited about this option because this does allow us to offer something to every student in the summer.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you, Shannon.
Mr. Dedman?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hollett, are our teachers doing running records, or are they just using iReady to determine their reading levels?
We do use informal running records. It's one of the best practices that we encourage teachers to use when they're conferring with readers and they're listening to them read. They're gathering that data to help them make those instructional decisions. So ideally, we are using both just to help us triangulate that data and make good instructional decisions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The summer learning experience for middle school teachers and students will focus on key content for the upcoming school year. Teachers will have the opportunity to participate in professional development that will enhance their knowledge in new tools like discovery education and learning plans, just to mention a few. Students will then benefit as teachers implement this new learning and receive feedback and coaching from their peers. We are going to also add to our virtual summer option, like we participated in last year, K-8, by incorporating some more focused science sessions in our summer site and offering a new course. It's called Up the Ladder, and this will target our readers who struggle with fiction. Both of these options will be self-paced, so our families have the option to get instruction anytime, anywhere, even on those summer vacations that we know they're going to be taking. So in offering these multiple options to our families, to our teachers, and to our students, we hope that we're going to intrigue all of our middle schoolers and help them find a place where they can explore and grow this summer. I am going to extend the opportunity to Ms. Kathleen DeAvier, our Director of High School Instruction, to kind of finish up on the K-12 plan.
Good evening. Like the other levels have stated, high school is going to take a very similar approach, the two-folded approach for our summer learning plans. We hope to focus both on student learning as well as teacher professional growth that will help them come this fall. Our first summer experience that I'd like to mention for high school students is an intervention program. The purpose of this summer program is to assist any rising 9th and 10th graders who may be in need of additional reading and or math supports. And this will also include students with specialized plans. This 2-week in-person learning camp will provide personalized, targeted instruction in reading and or math. Students will work with and be supported by our own Gaston County Schools high school English or math teachers. For the teachers, this summer program will actually begin about a week earlier. They will come together to receive professional learning in literacy and or math instruction. They will then implement these strategies when they are with their students. Every day after the students leave, they will use that time to collaborate and debrief so that they can continue to improve their own teaching practices. The second high school summer learning opportunity is aimed at students who have failed courses during this past year and would like to use the summertime to recover some of those credits. In the past, we have only provided this opportunity for seniors, but this year we are expanding the opportunity to any high school student in need of credit recovery. Students may take up to 2 credit recovery courses. While the actual credit recovery course is an online course, students are going to come on site to a central hub location. There, they are going to work in a classroom with a content-specific teacher for additional support. So for example, students who are taking math credit recovery courses will be in a classroom with a math teacher. These learning opportunities will be offered in 2-week increments all throughout the summer so that students may have multiple opportunities in which to participate. Lastly, similar to what we offered last summer, any rising 9th or 10th grader who is looking to preview content for the upcoming school year will be able to participate in our virtual summer extension program. Students may take up to 2 extensions. These extensions will focus on standard aligned content of our core graduation requirements in math, English, science, and social studies. This is an asynchronous, self-paced learning opportunity. These preview experiences are not full courses, therefore students will not be able to earn credit for participating, but they will certainly get a jump start at their next school year. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Diane Price, our Director of AIG.
Ms. Cherry had a
Ms.
question.
DeAvra?
Yes.
You know I've got a question. Okay, so how many 2-week sessions are you anticipating then?
I think we're anticipating about 5 2-week sessions so that, for example, we might start right after the school year ends. If a student wants to take one credit recovery course, that first 2-week increment, and then take some time with their family and then come back at the beginning of August, we're going to have, like I said, about 5 different 2-week variations.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. In addition to the camps that were previously mentioned, we have specific learning opportunities in the academically and intellectually gifted program as well. Students in 1st through 5th grades who are AIG identified, they are a composer identified student, or they attend the Pleasant Ridge Gifted and Talented Academy, they're going to engage in camps that will use critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication skills to work on many projects. It will engage them in exploring real-world topics and problems, or they're going to work on complex questions. That's it's noted as project-based learning, or PBL. In the middle school, AIG ELA students will receive intensive personal writing experiences such as journal writing and everyday writing for various contexts and audiences. That's going to be offering off of the project called the National Writing Project. It's that format that we'll be utilizing. In mathematics, AIG students would receive financial literacy lessons for teenagers, such as managing money, operating and opening a bank account, a savings, and balancing accounts to prepare for anticipated high school expenses and beyond. For our high school experience, that's going to consist of half-day classes geared for rising 10th through 12th graders that will prepare them for either the ACT or the SAT. Many sessions for those will cover evidence-based reading, English, mathematics, and science. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
I have a
Yeah, Miss
question.
Guthrie.
I was excited to hear what you were doing, and I certainly congratulate you and your wisdom to know how important it is to keep those skills intact. I thank you so much for that. And I did hear that you did not exclude the art, the music, and the PE. I know that our librarians can assist with this because you are going to, at each grade level, have the teachers to do a recommended reading list for the summer. Am I right, or is this just an assumption?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. There will be reading lists put out. Thank you.
So, based on the previous grade level, are you going to, I think it would be a good idea because, we have experienced some learning loss, would be to actually merge two reading lists together. Some of the books from the previous grade and then a few from the grade that the student will be in.
Ms. Guthrie, if I could add that we have talked as directors with the team, and one of the things that we intend to do is you will hear and you'll see a pattern here that we have something for everyone. So we certainly intend to tailor their book list to their specific needs and skills.
Right.
Depending on what program you're in will determine what book list you receive.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good. Jennifer Hamrick will also, now she's the DEC coordinator, she's going to share more specifics within our Exceptional Children's Department. Thank you.
Ms. Chair, you have a question?
Dr. Balknight, real quickly, the ACT, SAT, do we know how many sites we're going to have, or is it just going to be one school?
Well, it depends on the interest and also intent. It depends on the teachers that are willing to teach it this summer.
Okay.
We know that we can have one. Ideally, we'd like to have 2 high school sites to service all of our high school students.
Okay.
That's our goal.
And how are we going to, how are we promoting this?
Well, we are sharing information with the board tonight. Our staff is putting together a teacher interest survey to determine if they're interested and willing to teach summer school, and then we'll promote it to parents. We know that we're late, but as Dr. Booker highlighted earlier, we're still waiting on state guidelines and requirements that could impact our K-12 summer school.
Okay.
We typically share information in January, but we're behind because we're waiting to get our final guidance from the state.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Balknight.
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you for your updates, and thank you for your staff and leadership.
Mr. Ramsey, I'm sorry. We have one
Oh,
more
I'm
area.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Ms. Jennifer Hamrick will share information for our Department of Exceptional Children. Ms. Hamrick.
Thank you. So our students in the Exceptional Children's Program will have opportunities to participate in regular education camps. In additional summer programming will be offered for specific exceptional learners. First, we will have Braille learners in grades K through 12 can apply to participate in Gaining My Independence summer camp to improve Braille skills and receive instruction in the expanded core curriculum, which includes independent living, orientation and mobility, self-advocacy, and more. The Department for Exceptional Children would also like to offer a new summer opportunity for language enrichment, geared specifically for students with hearing impaired and speech services. Teachers for the deaf and hard of hearing, along with speech language pathologists, will receive targeted professional development and practice new instructional strategies during a 1 to 2 week camp. Personalized parent counseling and training will be offered during the camp to expand parents' knowledge around their own child's language acquisition and effective strategies that they can implement at home and in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes our presentation, Mr. Ramsey. Thank you for your time. As I said, we are sharing things that will include all of our students. It will be inclusive, something for everyone.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is Gaston County School Calendar 2021-2022. This is an information item, and Joy Clinton.
Good evening, Chairman Ramsey, Vice Chair Cherry, Superintendent Booker, board members. This evening, I would like to give you an update on the calendar survey that was posted on the Gaston County Schools homepage from January 19th through February 13th. And so I just want to just kind of walk through some of the information that we collected there during that time. Approximately 736 people responded to the survey, and the survey offered those individuals that responded to provide specific feedback, and we also highly encourage that feedback. As you all know, we've talked about the calendar laws, the laws that are associated with designing a school calendar and some of the constraints that are part of this law, and it's General Statute 115C-84.2. The highlights here: teachers and TAs will work 215 days per year. The start date and the end date are always two of the biggest obstacles you have to work around, and the start date is the Monday closest to August 26th, and the end date is the Friday that is closest to June 11th. And then, of course, the number of days in the calendar or instructional hours, the number of days, 185 days or 1,025 instructional hours at a minimum. And then, of course, the number of annual leave days, you must include 10, and you must also include an inclement weather plan in your calendar. So, of course, this is the draft that we posted online for our stakeholders to look at and to respond to. And you can see here, we've been over this calendar. We've talked about some of the highlights here, but the start date, of course, is August 23rd, and the end date in this draft calendar was June 8th. Of the surveys, the respondents to the surveys, like I said, we had 736 people that responded. Of those individuals, 58.2% of those individuals were our parents. Approximately 16% were our students. 20.5% of these folks were our teachers or school employees, certified staff, and then our classified staff, approximately 2.6% participated in the survey. The first question in the survey was, I like the 2021-22 calendar as it is, and approximately 84% of the individuals that responded did not like the 2021-2022 calendar, and 16% did like. So we dug a little deeper in, and of course, like we said, we tried to get more information from our folks, and as you can see here, of the 736 people that responded to the survey request, we have approximately 81.3% of these individuals that want to see our calendar end before Christmas break or winter vacation, and have that exam schedule before that time period. So that's the number one thing that everybody that participated in the calendar wanted to see happen. Of course, you can also see the early start date and the ending school in May was also a concern for 7.5 and approximately 5% of our folks. And then we also had an interesting twist here of 6.3% thought that the calendar, some mental health issues may be a part of this calendar, which was interesting to see that fact. So the next question was, share any recommendations you'd like to see made to the calendar. And of course, the number one recommendation was that we keep the calendar the same as we had for the 2020-2021 calendar. You all realize and know that we had some special exemptions to this school year's calendar because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We were able to start school earlier than usual, which did allow us the ability to end the first semester before winter break and to do the exams before that time as well. But that's the 51% of our folks that responded, that's what they would like to see happen again. 31.4%, of course, would like to see the exams prior to winter break. And then, of course, the remote learning days, 5.9% of our folks really like the remote learning. And then we have about 6% that want to see the calendar starting earlier than the 23rd and ending sooner than the date in June. So with that being said, we've listened to our stakeholders. We'd like to introduce to you another draft calendar tonight for information, and I would like to go over this calendar to just give you some highlights associated with it. Of course, we're still under the general statute. We still have to confine the calendar, and the start and end date, of course, stay the same here, but the start date we would have as the 23rd of August for our students. And you can see here the month of September, there's one day off for Labor Day. And then in October, we have 2 days here. One is a parent-teacher conference day on October 7th. And then the 8th would be a day for teachers to have an optional teacher work day. And then in November, we're required to have Veterans Day as part of the school calendar. We've got it recognized here on the 11th. And then you can see the November 24th through the 26th would be our Thanksgiving holidays. And then winter break would start on the 22nd for students and would go through January 7th for students. Now for teachers, they would return on January 6th, and we put in here January 6th and 7th as mandated work days. The Martin Luther King holiday is the 17th, and the month of February you have President's Day there as an optional teacher work day. Then in March, there are 2 dates, March 10th and 11th. Again, that will be for the second semester parent-teacher conference day, and then the optional day after that for teachers. And our spring break would be April 15th through the 22nd, with the 22nd being an optional work day, which is a Friday for our teachers. And then in June, we can look down here, and June 1st would be the last day of school for students, with June 4th being the graduation date. And then, of course, there's 2 days on the back side of that June 4th date, June 6th and 7th, that would be optional teacher work days for our staff. So we wanted to share this with you. Obviously, you can see here in December, first semester will end on December 21st. So that will allow us to test prior to going out for winter break. And some highlights here that I want to make you aware of, because obviously I think we all like the fact that we're able to, or with this year's calendar, we were able to end the semester prior to going home for winter break. But you can see with next year's calendar, with the way we have it worked out, starting on August 23rd, there's 179 total student days, with 84 days during the first semester and 95 days in the second semester. So we had a very difficult time trying to balance the two semesters. So that's one of the drawbacks to this calendar, but we wanted to make you aware that we're trying to work something out here. There's 1,065 instructional hours in this calendar, and I'm going to open it up now for anybody that has any questions.
Does anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Clinton?
Yes, sir.
I'm still reading that sideways.
Well, Ms. Chair, you have Kevin Collier.
Just for clarification, Mr. Clinton, we talked about this a little bit in our retreat. But in the 2021-2022 calendar, we have some remote days listed in February and March, and they're also in the inclement weather makeup days. Can you just clarify a little bit more for any parents that may have a question? Because that could be confusing to some parents where it's got remote learning days and a makeup day for inclement weather.
This past year, the General Assembly allowed us to utilize remote learning days. We would like to, or we're hoping that that's something that will be pushed through and we're able to utilize moving forward. But currently, remote learning days are not part of the calendar law. So we put those remote learning days in the draft calendar for the 21-22 school year that we posted online. Because if we're given that as an option by the General Assembly, we would like to utilize those specific days for remote learning days. And then the inclement weather days are required to have 7 inclement weather days built into your calendar. And we're hoping again too that remote learning will be a possibility during those inclement weather days so that students don't miss out on the instructional piece.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Cherry?
I think, so obviously we're putting this back out for information, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we would like to do.
Well, and let's just see what everybody says.
I think they'll be more pleased with winter break exams. Well, thank you, Mr. Clinton.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, Mr. Dedman?
Mr. Clinton, the only question I would have as a former principal, if you only have 42 days in that first semester and then you've got 49 in the last semester, I'm sure our principals will be able to select different classes to go in that time, but that might pose a problem with those 6 days or 7 days that you're not having in that first semester. Have you all discussed that?
We have, Mr. Dedman, and of course that is the biggest concern that we all have is the lack of days in the first semester compared to the number of days in the second. Obviously, it will, we will have to work with principals on the scheduling piece there to, if this is a calendar that is something that's approved. But knowing that, yes, we know this up front, that we're not going to have quite as many instructional days on the front half of the calendar.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I finally made it back after
I
the
was wondering, I
storm.
thought that was Mr. Hall. The thunderstorm knocked you out for a while.
I went and hid. But honestly, I was reading and I also keep up. And it seems like me a driving force. These calendars are from the resort areas. Am I right or wrong? I think me and Kevin spoke on that before.
Yes, sir.
Is that not correct?
Yes, that is correct. The
is
tourism industry kind of runs their school calendar in the state of North Carolina.
I think it's ridiculous, but I
We
just
do
wanted
too.
to. So,
We've been trying to get them to change it for 10 or 12 years.
Okay, Mr. Collier?
Yeah, I don't know if y'all saw the article in the Fayetteville Observer on the 5th of February that just alluded to the same thing. The calendar is getting some traction in Raleigh, and especially after COVID, it's getting discussed more than it ever had. But it looks like it's all just discussion and no real traction for change based on this article, because it just, as Mr. Dedman pointed out, that the tourism industry trumps education in this state and has since the calendar laws changed. I think it was 2004. And I ask our legislatures to show us the money that it brought the state by changing the calendar. And I don't know that anybody's ever said back in 2004, I think it was $1 million. This article says it's a $1.35 million. I'd still like to see how that's been proven or calculated out by, hijacking the school calendar in the state of North Carolina.
Yes, sir. Okay, any other questions before we move on to the next agenda? I see none. Thank you, Mr. Clinton.
Sir.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are several items on the consent agenda tonight. Please take a moment to look over those items. And Mr. Dedman makes a motion. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. There's a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, or hand, excuse me. The consent agenda is approved. This brings us to the time of our meeting to hear from our superintendent, Dr. Booker.
Thank you. I would ask first, we will need a closed session tonight, so I'll keep these comments short. I believe a big thank you is owed to all of our administrators, teachers, support staff, and others in our elementary schools who are working diligently to prepare for the March 1 implementation of Plan A. I want to continue to express the support of our health officials and what they have done in all these challenging times to help us to operate, and they're giving us ongoing feedback and interpretation. So all of this takes our schools and community partners working together and rising to the challenge so that we can provide ongoing opportunity for our students and to get as many kids back into our schools as soon as we can. But we still want to maintain safe protocols as best as we can. So I would just think, I appreciate all that they are doing. Youth riding around our schools and seeing, you may have noticed that sports is picking up. Football practice is well underway in preparation for a February 26th first game starts. Additionally, the sports that we have begun offering in middle school will start March 1st, beginning with middle school softball and boys soccer. And then once those two sports are complete, they'll bring, after spring break, they'll start girls soccer, baseball, and then track for both boys and girls starting the week after April 12th. And I would also remind our families that as you look ahead on our calendar, our Parent-Teacher Conference Day is scheduled for Thursday, March 11th. And that is a day that is a half day of dismissal, and conferences take place in the afternoon. It's my understanding our schools will continue with a lot of virtual conferences to support that. It was well received in the previous opportunities, and so they will continue that for this. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would ask that we go into a closed session, please.
Okay, before I ask for the closed session, I just want to thank everyone's time tonight, attention. We have work to do the best for our students, teachers, and community. We look forward to our next regular meeting, which is currently scheduled for March 15th, 2021. And also in February, we have two birthdays. It's our superintendent on February the 20th and Mr. Collier on February 26th. So we want to wish y'all guys a happy birthday. I think y'all are the same age.
Thank you.
I think
Mr.
so.
Chairman,
I got him by 6.
Yes, Mr. Hall.
before I got cut off when the doctor was speaking, I heard everything he said about the shots being given to the teachers. Well, during their days, you know, when they have their assignments, will they be allowed to leave school to go get their shots
Yeah.
or?
You missed that too.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Our
Okay.
schools will work with them to support them as they get appointments.
I finally figured out, get off my Wi-Fi and just go to AT&T, and that's how I got back on you guys.
Y'all moving up in Dallas.
Yeah, right.
Well, I do need a motion to go to closed session. Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to go in closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, paragraph A6 for personnel, and under the same statute, paragraph A3 for consultation with attorney. In order to consult with the board's attorney and protect the attorney-client privilege, and to receive advice with respect to the lawsuit captioned 19-CVS-319 Solomon et al. Versus Gaston County Board of Education et al. And case 19-CVS-3893 McKinney et al. Versus Goins and the Gaston County Board of Education and any other legal matters.
So we have a motion on the floor. Mr. Collier, we had a second from Mr. Hall.
Yes, sir.
All in favor? It's unanimous. We're in closed session. ask for adjournment. Mr. Dedman,
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
a second? Ms. Cherry, all in favor? We're adjourned.